Hey guys, welcome to the first lesson of the course. Now, here's what we're going to do. I just showed you before, but here's what we are going to render at the end of the course. You can see it's a very nice abstract landscape. It's kind of isometric, and you can see that it actually makes no sense. It's not something real. You can see that we have a lot of abstract things. We have a pool and a tree park and a building, but it looks very fine. It looks very good, and it's it's a 3D render where we can learn a lot of things. So let's go to Cinema 4D, of course, and let's begin. First thing that we're going to do is this base, the main base of this landscape, and we're going to do this tree park. I call this tree park because it has a bench and we can see some trees on it. So we're going to create this on this first lesson. So now let's go to Cinema 4D, and to do this, all the things that we see on this image, we're going to use mostly splines and some cubes. So first let's create a spline. The splines are here, or you can go to create, select spline, and take the rectangle. You can do it over here or just over here. Of course, this is easier. Select your rectangle and you will have this shape. You can see that it's a spline, which means that it's just a path. It's just like a vector path from Illustrator. It's not a real shape. It has no dimensions. So we will take this rectangle. Now first let's change the plane. Right now it's on the X and Y plane. Let's change this to the X and Z, so it will be laying down here. And now we're going to change the view to something over here. We can rotate it as we please. Try to make it look just like this. Take this example. Okay, I think this is good. And now let's change the size of this rectangle spline. On the width, let's change this to 550, and for the height let's change this to 470. And now to make it look very cool, we're going to check the rounding. When we do this, you can see that it's now a round rectangle. Now we can change the size of the radius if we want, but 50 is perfect for now. Okay, now we have this rectangle, and now of course we need this to be three-dimensional. So to do this, we're going to select extrude object, and we're going to place the rectangle spline into the extrude object like this. Now right now it's acting on the Z axis, which is not good for us because it's just displacing the rectangle through the Z axis. So we need to change on the Y axis so that it goes below. So let's change this to 0, and for the movement on the Y axis we will change this to -8. Okay, now we have a nice shape. This will be the base. Now we can set up a camera and turn it on, and we can turn it off now, so that we have, if we change some of the view, but because we're going to have to zoom in and zoom out a lot, we can always go back to our main view. Okay, now let's change our view just a little bit. I think this is good. Maybe we can change the angle just a little bit so that we see more of this rectangle, like that. Okay, we can work with this. Now let's change this name. Let's change this to base, so that we know this is the base of the composition. Now let's duplicate this base, and we're going to call this building base. Now this duplicate, let's set it up a little bit so that it's on top of the main base, and we're going to change the size because I want to create this object and then this one. So let's go to our top view. You can see this is a top view. If you want, you can set it to display garage shading, and of course right now they are both the same size, so we need to change that. Select your building base and select the spline, and we need to change the size, of course. For the width, let's change this to 225. Right now it's looking like this. And for the height, let's change this to 430, and let's set it to the left. Now you can see that the radius here has changed just a little bit because of course it's a lower size, so this radius changed, the edges change a little bit on the radius, so we need to fix that. Just go to the radius and set it to 35 instead of 15, and you can see that now they are the same. Now bring it a little bit here. The idea is that we see both of them, and let's go to the front view and let's place them together like this. Alright, now onto the main view. We have both of these shapes. If you want, I work like this because I think this makes it a little bit easier. You can create a material and place it on some of the objects so that we can see the difference between all these shapes. Now this is the building base. Now we are going to create the tree park, which is this one. So we need to create a duplicate of this building base, and we can call this tree base. Actually, you can call it however you want because it's just for yourself. Now on the tree base, let's move it up a little bit, and now onto our top view again, and we are going to change the material to any color that you want just for now so that we can see the difference between these objects. Now on the tree base, let's change the spline size. Of course, for the width should be 190, and for the height 160. So we have like a square here. Place it here, and again we should change this radius. In this case we're going to use 25 for the radius. You can see that they are all the same angle. Okay, we have then our tree base. Let's go to the top view and move this a little bit. Okay, like this. Now we have our shapes very well, and now it's time to create these trees and this fountain and the bench. So they are actually simple to create. Let's go on the objects and create a tube. Now let's go to our top view and let's place this tube in the middle of the tree base, and of course we have to change the radius a lot. Let's set it to 15 on the outer radius, and on the inner radius let's set it to, let's see, 30. No, it should be much more. We should be on 45 centimeters, and let's place this on the middle. We should actually change this Instead of 50 centimeters, let's set it to 30, and this one should be on 25. I think it's too small now. Let's see, 35 here and 30. Okay, we can work with this. Let's see how it looks on this main view. Okay, now we need to change the height, of course, because right now it's coming too much. Set it to 10, and let's try how it looks. Yeah, now place it over here, and we have this pool. You can see it's exactly like this one. All right, now create a disk, and this disk we're going to place it inside of this tube that we just created. You can go to your top view and make it the same size as this radius, which should be 35 if I'm not wrong, or we can make it smaller, 30. Just like this. We can give it a little more room, 32, so we have more room here. Now let's place it a little higher, and we have this fountain. Now let's group this. I try to group everything all the time because otherwise I would have too many objects here, and that really annoys me. So I try to group as much as I can. For example, this one could be called, I don't know, water. Let's call this water, and we can actually duplicate this because we're going to use it for the base of the trees. You can see on the image, you can see that we have the same shape for the trees. So we have this, and to lower the size, we can grab this as tree base and move to coordinates. And on the size, if you want to change the size of something and that it has the same proportions, the same radius, you can always do this. You can set it to, for example, 0.6, and repeat this on all the axes. So that way it will lower the size and keeping the proportion. It's too big for now, so we have to set it to 0.3. Okay, this is much better now. Let's go to the top view and place it over here on one corner. Okay, we have the base. Now we need to create a cylinder, and this cylinder of course will be the trunk of the tree. Let's change the size. The radius should be way smaller, like 3. And for the height, we have to lower it a lot. Over here. Alright, this is good. Let's see if it's aligned here. Okay, try to align this to the middle. And now it's time to create the bushes of the tree, the leaves. And this is actually very fun to do. Take your sphere, and for the sphere to be more rounded, we need to add some more segments. So let's set it to 100, and for the radius, we can set it to, I don't know, 15. Now set this on top of the cylinder. Now change the radius to 3, or maybe a little bit more, like 10. And now create a duplicate of this sphere here on the top. And now with this sphere selected, let's go and create a metaball here. Create a metaball and take these two spheres and place them inside of the metaball. Now at first you won't see anything, but change this whole value to 2% and you will start seeing this. Now let's change the size of these spheres. The first spheres, the lower one should be 3 and the top one should be 5, and you will have this shape like this. Now go to the metaball and change the editor subdivisions to 1.5, and you will have this shape. You can see that the lower this number is, the smoother the shape will be. If we increase this, you can see that we will have more subdivisions, the more space between the subdivisions, and that will make this look like low poly effect. So we need to set it to 1.5. Now take into account that the lower this number is, also the longer it will take to render, so you have to be careful with that. Take one of these spheres, the top one, and take it up a little bit like this, because if you take a look at their image, you can see that we have this nice shape for the trees. So if you want to create that, you have to take this top sphere up a little bit, because that's what creates the metaball. If you take it way too much, you can see that it's like they are uniting here. So I want it to look like this, kind of like a Q-tip. Okay, this is fine. Now take your metaball and on the coordinates change the size to 0.5 on each one of the axes, and you will have the top of the trees. Now set it on the top view, like this. Alright, now take it up a little bit. Alright, we have our first 3. So let's group all of these and call this, of course, 3. Now just create some duplicates. Let's create one duplicate, go to the top view and move it to the left side, and take both of them, create some duplicates and take them both to the top side. And now we have the 4 trees. We can group this also, call these trees, because otherwise you would have a lot of things here on the objects panel. Now all we need to do is the bench, which is really simple to create too. Let's change the view here and let's create a cube, and let's change the size until we have a nice bench. Place it here on top of the bench park. Change the height. And we adapt this. You don't have to do a specific size, just try to make it look like a bench. That's all that matters. Alright, we have this shape. Now duplicate this cube and change the size a little bit. to create the legs of the bench. Alright, and finally the right leg. And let's see how it looks. Alright, we have our bench, so we can group everything and call this bench, and we can actually take all of this, including the tree base, and group everything, and let's call this, I call this tree park. So we have our first object. You can see that it's the same as this. We have our first object. Now let's go to the next lesson to continue creating some cool objects on this abstract landscape. See you on the next one.